Hey everyone, Raj and Pete here again, this time to talk you through the 2019 Total Vet Activity Reporting and also some changes for 2020. Why? Well, we know that reporting can be daunting. It definitely doesn't have to be. Toward the end of the webinar, we'll also go through the changes affecting not only Total Vet, but also Vic, Tas and WA reporting in 2020. So for those that don't deliver or operate in any of those states, feel free to jump off at the end of the Total Vet section. Right, up first, Total Vet Activity Reporting for 2019. Funnily enough, one of our most asked questions is actually how to run the Total Vet Activity Reporting extract. So let's take a look at that now. So if we just jump into JR Plus, and this is just my training site here, so not actual data, under administration, funding, and a VetMS extract, what you'll find here is the ability now to run your Total Vet Activity Reporting. So for the purposes of reporting all of your data for the activity year, you'll see that by default, all states and regions are selected. So you don't really want to change the default value there. And you've also got the activity year. The activity year obviously is 2019. The VetMS version defaults to VetMS version 8. And you just want to remove any contracts that aren't to be reported as part of this extract. Now, across the top, you'll see the wizard. So as we click next through these particular pages, one of the pages that actually stumps a lot of clients, and I'm pretty open to say this, is this search page. So when we go to the students to report, you don't necessarily want to search for an individual student. You don't want to search for an individual course. You actually want to extract all of your data for the activity year. So if you just click search without entering any information there, what you'll find is that we get a full list of all the students that are ready to report for that particular year. Now, what we want to do here is we want to add all matches. Obviously, you've got the ability there to remove records as required by unchecking, but we want to add all matches. So we'll just click on that. And then the system will draw them down into each individual course that the students are undertaking. So you can see there, if we click through, we can actually identify which courses those students are enrolled into. Clicking next again allows us to check for warnings. So checking for warnings, it's not directly relatable to the NCVR errors that you might receive. But what we're actually looking for here is the information that may not actually be present within your system. So if there's a date of birth missing or a USI missing, basically what the system will do is it will identify and tell you that information is missing from JR Plus. What you can do is you can click directly into the student's enrollment or directly into the edit page to make those relevant changes, and you can go about your business. Now, once you've actually made all of those changes, one thing to note is you can actually download all those warnings as a PDF. So potentially you may not want to be the one that's actually undertaking those amendments. You can download them as a PDF. They are actually hyperlinks as well within the PDF. So when you click on these from within the PDF, it does open up into your system. But the idea is that once you've actually made all the relevant changes, added the addresses, added the USIs, etc., you can check again. Or if you're comfortable that you've actually made all the relevant amendments, you can just click next again through to the confirmation page. So on the confirm page, it gives us a summary. It's advising us that we're reporting across all states. The VetMS version is 8, the activity year is 2019, and the students to report are 39 in total. Now, when we click export, that basically gives us our VetMS extract. And obviously, depending on the size of your database to be exported, that might take a little bit longer than what this just has with 39 students. But you've got that zip folder. If we just grab this zip folder, what we'll find is the NAT files. So we've got our NAT10, which includes all of our RTO profile information, the NAT20, which includes our delivery locations, NAT30, 60, 80, 85, 90, 100, 120. which is of particular importance, which is all of the unit activity which has been recorded throughout the calendar year, and obviously our completions, which is the Nat 130. So all of that information is extracted through JR Plus, ready for you to upload to NCVER. Now, just bear with me one tick as I open up the system again. If any changes do need to be made, you can obviously just leave that particular batch and you can make any relevant changes and rerun that EVETMIS extract. It has no impact on actual claims, so that's fine to run that as many times as required. And just a heads up, there is actually a logbook of all of those EVETMIS batches which are run under Administration, Audit Logs, and Batch Log. What you'll find is right here, we've got the warnings which we ran and the PDF which has been produced out of that process, and also the EVETMIS extract, which is a zip file. If you want to make things a little bit easier, you can actually search for EVETMIS up the top, and that will only show you your EVETMIS extracts and reports. Alrighty, so that's TVA reporting and how that's done. But what happens when you might receive some warnings or fatal errors? Well, that's over to Raj to cover off some of the main items and how to fix those in JR Plus. Raj?
Thanks, Pete. Hi guys. So I'm just going to quickly show you the errors that we get on, like, I'd say probably a day-to-day basis, and which are the most common errors that our users face. And I'll also try to show you how we can actually resolve these errors as well. So I've got this screen in front of me where I've listed all these errors, and I'm just going to go through these one by one. So first one we're going to cover is error 3716, which triggers around invalid delivery mode identifier. So just to give a background for EVETMIS 8, there have been some changes to the way the delivery mode code is managed. It used to be a number before, but now NCVER has changed it to alphabets, and the format has completely changed. So that's something that people miss out a lot on, and they don't know how to manage that. So if we open the first link to the course, I'll show you just as an example. You can see here for this course, we can see that the delivery mode under the settings section is actually set up as classroom based. This is actually an old code, and the new codes have been marked with 2018 at the end, just to make it easier for you to identify and also tell when these changes were actually implemented on the system. So if we jump to the NCVER documentation around the data elements, just want to give you a quick understanding of how these codes work, because they are quite different. For example, classroom-based the closest interpretation for a lot of users would be internal only. But you can use this as a cheat sheet to work out what code needs to be against the course and the enrollment. So if we jump back to the course again, the first thing we need to do is actually change the delivery mode. So we just change it to internal only. So what it allows us to do is, for any future enrollments, all the students would automatically be marked as internal only. The second thing we need to do is go to the student section from the left-hand menu, click on advanced, and show inactive students, and click on search to give us the full list of all the students that are part of that course. And then we can update these delivery modes in bulk as well. Change it to internal only. And then that's done. Because we have made the changes at the course level, we don't have to worry about students not being made part of this delivery mode in the future. So these changes were just to update the older student records.
Yeah, I think it's really important to note there, from all of my visits on site with clients, it comes up a lot with regards to updating courses and why that doesn't flow down to each individual enrollment that's already, or for each student that's already enrolled into the course. The rule there, I suppose, is pretty simple, is the fact that whilst you might be changing data for a course for any new enrolments coming through, that data might not necessarily need to be changed for existing enrolments. It could be things like trainers, start dates, target end dates, that kind of thing. So any students that are already enrolled into a course, even though you do change data at the course level, they will need to be updated through this bulk process. It's probably the easiest way to do it instead of doing it one by one, but just bear in mind that if you do make changes at course level, it will only affect students moving forward or enrolments moving forward, new enrolments. It won't affect the students that are already enrolled into the course. You will need to run that bulk update.
Okay, thanks, Blake. So let's have a look at our list again and go through some other errors as well. So another error that we come across a lot is around addresses and postcode. That this error usually triggers on your delivery location, that's NAT20 file. I'll actually show you a really quick way to resolve this. Usually on your error report, it's just going to say that the suburb or locality or the postcode is blank, and please change it. So if you just go back to that list again, yes, okay. So what we are talking about is the training organization delivery location ID. It usually the error code contains an ID. So what we need to do is go to lookups, locations, and facilities. For example, we used it had an ID of 1. All we need to do is open any location. And if we look at the top URL section, it actually shows you the ID. So for example, if an ID is 1, you can mark it as 1. And if it's a different ID is erroring out, all you need to do is go to the section and then just update the ID. And if you have got 2, and it will straight away take you to the location that's actually triggering that error, and you can just update the address against those records. Cool. Okay. Yeah, third one is, again, that comes up a lot around submission of publicly funded data. So in summary, NCVR doesn't want you to report any state-funded data through them. They are more concerned about fee-for-service records and all, because always already these funded data is going through the state departments. So there are 2 things you can do here. So first thing I would, again, like something that Pete pointed out, but I'll probably point it out again, is when you're actually running the extract, make sure that you actually exclude any contracts that are being funded by a state, and then actually go ahead with the preparation of a FMS extract. But there might be cases why that you might still receive these errors for certain students. So the way you need to fix that is for the student that's actually triggering that error, what we need to do is we need to go to the claims and funding section for that student. And we need to see first if what the funding source national code is associated. In most cases, chances are that there won't be any contract associated, but the funding source national value would still be set up as, for example, 15, which is state funded. So all you need to do is change it to 20. That's full fee paying client, and just save it, and that should resolve your error. Okay, moving on to the next one is error for 006. Program identifier must also exist in program file. So again, for your individual unit enrollments, there's a rule for NCVR in reporting that you don't really need to report these individual units as under programs. So what happens sometimes is you might have certain courses that wouldn't fall under this requirement but might still trigger this error. So the way we fix that is, firstly, go to the student in question and then go to the course scope. And go to the compliance section under course scope. And you'll see there's a checkbox here called individual enrollments. If you hover on top of that tooltip there, it tells you exactly what's happening there. So again, like as I said, like if you should turn on this checkbox, this program is this record or this program is going to be reported as an individual unit enrollment and not be part of the program file or NAP30 file. And if you uncheck that box, that should resolve that error. Another thing that I want to point out is that this section goes hand in hand with the qualification level and recognition status as well. So make sure all these sections are in line. So for example, if it's a accredited national course, chances are it's not going to be an individual unit enrollment. Okay, moving on to the next one. Okay, yep. So the error is 3747. It says funding source national is 30. Therefore, postcode on the client file must be OSPC. So again, there's an upcoming change around funding source national for National 30, which we're going to touch on later, but it shouldn't affect your 2019 reporting. So essentially, what happens there is that if you go to the record itself, I'm going to show you why this error is coming up. Again, we're at the right section right there. So the section we're referring to is funding source national 30. So we have set it up as 30. So the department expects us to report the primary address to be an OSPC address. So if you go to the profile section for this student and go to details, so you'll see that there's actually an Australian address next to the record. So what we need to do is go to this section and make sure there's an OSPC address added and marked as primary address to be recorded as primary address for the student record, and that should resolve this error. It goes either way. If the student is actually an Australian student, and what you need to do is just change the funding source national value to be the right one. Okay, another tip around addresses. There's another question people ask. Sometimes people put in a PO box address as their primary address. It's an CVR requirement that the primary address needs to be an actual physical address with a street address. So just be mindful of that. Okay, so the next one is again quite common. It's probably going to trigger from early next year. So error would be like 3252, for example, and it would say something like outcome ID 70 should not be used for this activity end date with a date when submitting to the end of year collection. Okay, so the reason why this error triggers is because the outcome that's been used is an interim outcome. That's not a final outcome, but the date that might be actually saved against that unit is in the past based on the submission date. So essentially what department is trying to say is if it's an interim outcome, why the date is in the past. So if we look at this record,
just a technical issue, guys. Hold on one tick.
Okay, so this record is a good example. We're just quickly going to search for that test unit, which has been overwritten for some reason. So I'll show you how it's going to look like. It's going to have a start date or either target end date or the actual end date in the past as well. So as you're running a report in January, what department is trying to say is if it's an outcome 70, this date should possibly be in the future, not in the past. So what you need to do in this instance is just change the target end date and push it to the future. For example, if you're running a report in like early January, you can change it to end of January or February, so that a department knows that this is a continuing enrollment unit and it would be finished in the future. Okay. I think that's pretty much from our list. Let us quickly check that as well, just to make sure we have covered everything. But these are possibly the major errors we receive around reporting.
Yep. So, guys, that's actually it for total vet activity reporting in JR Plus. Thanks, Raj, for going through all of those items. We're pretty confident that you'll be running clean extracts off the back of this webinar, but we'll also be adding a recording of this webinar to our online help center so that you guys can reference it when needed. But now Raj will actually be taking you through the reporting changes for 2020, starting off with a Vetmas National.
Thanks, Pete. So again, for National, there is actually a really small change. Again, I'm just going to point out, like, we're quickly going to go through the list, but we will be hosting help articles on Zendesk, which will contain all the screenshots for you as well, so that it makes it quite easy for you to understand what the changes are. Again, just covering the major changes there. So this is probably the biggest one. So what they've done is the funding source national, international. The code is 30. It has actually now been split into two, which is 31 for international onshore client other revenue, and 32 is for international offshore client other revenue. So again, you can use, you need to start using these from 2020 onwards for your new reports. So the next change is I'm going to cover around Victoria. Again, quite a few there. So the biggest one here is at school flag. So SVTS will no longer allow you to use not stated from 2020. You need to answer that question as a yes or a no. So what we have done is we have added or going to be added from 2020 are these validations. Again, warning messages when you enroll students telling you that you can't use this field, and also when you run your NAT file generation for WIC, we're also going to trigger these warnings and show you that you need to fill up these forms. Also, we're going to be adding a bulk update option at the course level as well, in case you want to add these fields at the later stage. Another big change from SVTS is that they don't want you to report program enrollments with no activity. So again, so if you're reporting anything that doesn't have a legitimate activity, like containing only outcomes such as not yet started or credit transfers, they've asked us to not trigger the course or the program commencement date. That automatically gets calculated. So we have added some rules to make sure that doesn't happen. But again, just be mindful of that when you add these outcomes against the record, because you might get errors if you try to report just these outcomes, and there might not be a course program commencement date against these records. But again, this field itself is completely editable. What you can do is you can go to these enrollments and you can add a program commencement date if needed. If you got a list, for example, of units, part of an enrollment where they are there's a set of units where, for example, one outcome might be competent, one might be not started, and one might be credit transfer. The program commencement date would be picked up based on the competent outcome, which is, again, either not yet started or credit transfer. It's the first unit that would be competent. Okay. The next one is a new outcome that's been added, waiting employer sound outcome. So it's the code is 79. and it's a big specific outcome. The next one is excluding units from claiming and invoicing. That's again a big one. Everyone who reports in SVTS knows that there can be a lot of errors, especially around the records that might have been reported in the past. So what SVTS allows you to do now is add certain codes to specific units, telling them that you want to opt out so that you don't get these rejection errors. And again, these opt-out options will be sitting against students' units, so you can just choose it based on which unit you want to apply it to. Again, we will be sending out Zendesk articles, which would have all the screenshots and showing you exactly where to find these fields. The next one is Workplace ABN. So again, from 2020, SVTS wants you to report Workplace ABN for the employer, there as a student is working. And so again, like for like providing workplace delivery and practical placement, and it has to be, it doesn't need to be managed for every unit. We have been told it has to be for the employer that was predominantly involved in the training. And again, a new section has been added under the student record, under the state specific section, to allow you to add this ABN. Okay, I believe these are the major ones for WIC, pretty much. Let's move on to TAS changes. Again, a lot of these changes that TAS have implemented are influenced by already existing fields in Victoria. For example, industry of employment and occupation, there are a couple of new fields that have been added to the enrollment. And again, they're going to also be exposed at the course level to easily allow you to manage these fields as well as needed. The second one is program enrollments. So again, TAS has pretty much adopted what Victoria does. What they've done is they've added the program commencement date and program enrollment identifier fields against an enrollment. Again, when you try to report any batch, these two fields are automatically created or populated based on the data. But again, these are completely editable fields. If you need, you can go to the enrollment and you can change them when you want. Also, one of the big change is the tuition and resource fees. And what department wants you to do now is to report these. Again, you can add the fees in bulk as well. So what we have done is we have added additional 2 fields at the enrollment level that would allow you to define how much you're charging for tuition and resource fees. The last one is income contingent loan indicator. Again, existing field for WIC. So what happens here is that any VSL or VET student loan student you have got, they need a notification to be sent to them telling them that it's a VSL student. It's something that you really don't need to manage on the UI level, because based on your current setting, if you've already set up all the VSL fields, the system will automatically report that student as a VSL student. Nice and easy. And I'll quickly jump to Western Australia changes. Not that many compared to others, but again, they've just added a new fee exemption. C, child in state government care. Again, this field will be added. FYI, all you need to do is make sure that you report and course and resource fee as 0 in these instances, because again, it's a fee exemption. Another one is Gender X. So what they've done is they've actually replaced at with X now for any unspecified genders. But what you can do is, again, there's already an existing field there, and you can manage it on the gender section. Again, this field itself is completely editable as well. Although all these options are still there, but you can still make necessary changes if needed. The next big one is New Study Reason. The code is 13, gaining skills for community voluntary work. It's an existing one, but again, Western Australia has started accepting them, and they are already present in your system as well. Okay, that's pretty much it from me. Pete, back to you.
Thanks, Raj, for going through all of that. So that's basically all of the 2019 and 2020 reporting in JL Plus. As always, we'll be here to help and answer any questions you might have. So obviously, reach out to us if you need. Our support lines will be open, but you can also email us at rajaj@jobready.com.au or peterb@jobready.com.au with any queries. Thanks, guys.